So I'm going to open this video up in a way that most people probably wouldn't want to open up a video. I was wrong, and particularly about the Samsung S95D and the matte finish screen, particularly how much of an impact it would have competitively on the market. You see, when I first saw the matte finish screen, I, like everybody who saw QD-OLED and all other OLEDs before that point, was used to and accustomed to the glossy screen. It made the most sense, and it does increase contrast. And I wasn't wrong that it does kill contrast. It does. It weakens contrast to a point where it's not as good as it would have been if they not made that decision. However, with intense calibration, adjustment, studying of what the TV's behaviors are and are not, which again, you need a substantial amount of time. We're talking the course of months, not weeks. And usually in review periods, we only have a couple of weeks to review these products, and then it's on to the next before the viewers get bored. That's just how it works, right? Well, for me, I just didn't have that luxury in that time frame of being able to see all of the wonderful benefits, but I have, and here they are. In custom color space, you are able to get way more out of the television than I ever saw in just the regular native mode or auto mode. And furthermore, after an update, I don't know which one, to be honest, I did a couple at this point, it has gotten better as far as its refinement with contrast and things of that nature. Now, I know a lot of people wanted me to do a full video on the actual firmware itself, to which I'd say it's pointless. It doesn't really tell you what it changes, and honestly, I haven't seen enough of a massive difference to be like, oh guys, this is just game-changing stuff. I can tell you, though, that the custom color space is the secret sauce with pretty much every Samsung TV usually, but even more so on this one, it was definitely required. Now, the matte finish screen, even though it is not my favorite thing in the world, I have to say it's kind of grown on me just a little bit, because there are instances where there are just bright highlights that I don't want on the screen from my ambient light, and I don't get any of that, and that is a nice benefit. I will say, though, that it does still bother me that the screen does kind of look a little ashy, in my opinion, but I do want to say that, yeah, competitively it is every bit of the champion that it is, because we've seen it go up against, at this point, the Bravia 9, the TCL QM851G, the S95D, and at no point in time, I mean the LG G4, no point in time did we see the Samsung so grossly beaten on the S95D side of things that you would say, you know what? It's not even worth the purchase. Let's just go with something else. It doesn't exist like that, because that's not its reality. And when that's the case, we can then understand something different. The S95D, for all intents and purposes, is stellar. Beyond stellar, it goes into a territory all of its own, because it has the ability to not get globally bright where the whole screen is just wrapped in brightness. No, it doesn't do that, but what it does instead is it finds tiny little highlights and plucks them out and brightens them up. In my personal opinion, this is the only correct way. Period. There is only one right way, and this is it. I don't believe in there are multiple approaches to different styles. Wrong. Things look a certain way in real life. For example, the light right here on my face, casting the way that it does, will always have that highlight, and the background is always going to have the depth that it has from the darkness. It's always going to look this way. And that's the same thing when you're watching movies and TV shows. Those bright highlights need to be intense, need to be bright to give you that impact that you would have had in the real world. Like if I'm seeing a ray of light come through the clouds, that's going to be a very fine, very, again, precise pinpoint light on, again, the environment, on the ground, whatever it touches, you know, leaves through a tree, or sunlight coming through the leaves of a tree. These are things that need to be intensely beautiful highlights. And that's what the S95D does, and that's where its magic is. And don't get me started on fireworks scenes at night, space explosions at night. That thing just comes alive in a way I don't see any TV doing. Now, to be fair, the only TV that is close right now is the S95D. It just has the color throw on that thing is magical. But then counteractively, when you look at what both are doing, I can safely say that all the contrast stuff that I was concerned with melt away near instantaneously, again, once you start doing a custom calibration and custom color space. Here's why. Because the biggest problem is a lack of contrast. Basically, in a nutshell, the luminosity of your colors can dictate contrast too. And by curving that and shaping that, you are able to get more immersion, more expression out of your scenes. Even if you have to be a little overzealous in some areas on certain colors, you can still tighten contrast even further. So it is possible, is the point. And this is, again, something you'll never know by just taking a TV out of the box, which is why, for those who have watched, I've been so heavy-handed against guys like Tech with KG, for example, who openly say, oh, I just whip TVs out of the box. And maybe it can be changed if you start tuning around, and maybe you can see something different. But then you're not doing it justice, because in this example, very specifically, you're seeing it. Out of the box, it would have been in exactly like I told you, and I would have never have had to come on camera and say, hey, I was wrong. The anti-glare, not as big of a problem as I thought it was going to be. And honestly speaking, I like when I'm wrong like this, because there's nothing better than two things. One, a man being able to admit he's wrong, humble himself before an entire audience and say, yes, I was wrong about this particular thing. And two, a man being able to see something come out of a product that he had no idea would even be able to reach that potential through studying, effort, and trying harder. And that's the thing with TVs these days. I'm sorry to say, but most times you're not going to get what you pay for. You have to go back to the drawing board again and again and again before you arrive at some stellar results. It takes time. And again, not weeks, months, which I'm glad to tell you, in a lot of the cases and examples for a lot of the most popular TVs you're going to buy, I've already done the work. For literally $4.99, you can join my membership and get those settings and save yourself work, and then have a TV so good every time your wife or your son and daughter or sister or anyone comes over your house and looks at your TV, they're going to be scratching their head asking, what is so different about your TV and why does mine look so trash? They're going to literally be watching everything on your TV with their mouth open and their eyes glazed over with goo-goo eyes, okay? That's what my settings do. And if you want to see that for yourself and you want that as your bottom line result, hey, again, don't try to do it yourself. Don't struggle. There's no point to. Just join. I got you covered for literally the price of a cup of coffee. That being said, though, I like when I see things like this because it shows me that even when I think something's not as good in a certain area, it can get better. And I think if we have more TVs and more manufacturers that give us features to pull more out of our televisions, that'd be great. Ultimately speaking, though, I still think that gloss is superior. I would rather it be gloss, and I hope next year they go back to glossy screen because that's just what looks the best and gives the most contrast from my experience, even if you've got to put up with some reflections, albeit not everybody likes that, so to each their own. But I will say this, though, the Samsung S95D is like the flagship of flagship QD-OLEDs right now, outside of, obviously, the junior flagship S90D, which honestly I don't even see as a junior flagship. I feel like that should have been right up there with the flagship too. I don't know. It gets weird sometimes with the way that they choose a flagship versus not. But either way, you win either way. I want you guys to know this, though. When you look at quantum dots and you look at, again, WOLED and all that other stuff, every single day of the week, the QD-OLED is going to win. And again, you've seen it with the G4, you've seen it with all of the other LEDs and OLEDs. And I'll tell you like this, too. Panasonic came back to the US. Not a big deal to me because, honestly speaking, what does it do for us? It's still a WOLED, and WOLED is still limited in what it can produce from a color gamut perspective, even if it is bright. And ultimately, that brightness isn't always known for being the best thing for WOLED. And at the end of the day, what Samsung did, even with crippling themselves, they're beating every single manufacturer I put them up against. And that, to me, is like remarkable. Because imagine the confidence and even kind of like cockiness you could have going into every argument with any TV manufacturer or competitor. Like, I'll tell you what, next year I'm going to come out with a TV. I'm going to nerf myself. I'm going to not even bring my best, okay? I'm going to put a finish on the screen that's going to weaken contrast, and I'll still beat your TV. That's what the Samsung S95D is saying. It's mind-blowing stuff. But I want to know what you guys think on this. Do you think this is, something that is a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing? Let me know again down below. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Until the next video, and I'll see you guys later.